Hello everyone, my name is El Parnaso, and for today's video I'm going to explain why El Parnaso. So don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share the channel with your people so we can grow. Because in order to understand this, we need to go all the way back to over 20 years ago. Why? Let's talk about it. Specifically, the year 2003. She is my aunt, and as you can see, she has done a lot of crazy things in all the different levels that literature can allow you to do, because she is a doctor. But back in 2003, she was the youngest ever to win the Poetry National Championship. So as you can see, being a national champion running through our veins. But when she achieved this, she decided to use the money of the award to invest in creating a magazine to gather different poets all from South America and obviously herself. And the new poem that she decided to include in that magazine was both an homage to one of the greatest poets of all time and a critique to the worst poets that she has seen in her time. So the poet that she decided to homage was Miguel de Cervantes, and here you can see where things are going, right? Because the specific homage was to the poem Journey to El Parnaso. Now, Miguel de Cervantes in this book is also making both kind of an homage to good poetry and a critique and a satire against bad poets. So just so you can get a little frame of what I'm talking about, let me just translate the best as I can the prologue to that book. If by any venture you, curious lector, are a poet and this book get into your seeing hands, if you found yourself written and noted between the good poets, give thanks to Apollo because of his mercy. And if you are not in this, and if you don't found yourself here, be grateful too, and God bless you. So you can see that Cervantes has a very specific kind of humor, right? So my aunt decided to make this reference because her poem was Journey to the Edge of El Parnaso. And in this new story, Apollo again is guiding a poet, in this case my aunt, in a journey to fulfill the mission of saving the literature. Because in this idea, El Parnaso was occupied by people that were just shitty poetry that was ruining the literature, because we all know that in today's times almost no one wants to actually read books. And from my own understanding, this crisis of the literature is more of a problem of the new literature being shit that no one wants to actually interact with, more than the problem of the consumer. And her way to explain it back in those younger times is to take an explicit shit on all the poets of her time by name and everything else, because my aunt is crazy. So because of this idea, she was encommended by Apollo to save this earth of the poets, because El Parnaso, or well, some of you may understand it as Parnassus, is most in the history of literature understood as the earth of the poets. The idea of the best poetry being there and the best poets living there, as you can see by Miguel de Cervantes, all way back in like 10,000 years ago, in his journey of El Parnaso, and now in her journey to the edge of El Parnaso. And why is this important, and how anything or any of this is related to me? Because in this poem, she's doing this conquest and actually succeeding in conquering El Parnaso to try to save it and recover it. And as you can see, she actually succeeds, because a lot of the people that she took a big shit on by name ended up hiring her, because she was so good at her job that she was just undeniable. She worked with one of the biggest universities here in my country. She worked with literally the Peruvian Academy. She worked with the judicial power. She she worked with the Minister of Culture, blah blah blah. Like she, at the end of the day, proved herself right. So while conquering El Parnaso, my aunt, in her personal life, decided to nurture all her literature knowledge to their sons. But Parnaso, you ain't her son, right? But my aunt and my mom always lived together, or always try to live in the same residential, like different apartments, but always close, like just going down the stairs or some shit like that. So I always live all my life close to her. I always visit her. I always visit my cousins, like almost every single day. And thanks to that, I also got the chance to get nurtured from day one, because she was literally there when my mom gave birth, from day one of my life, to get access to her literature knowledge after like before she conquered El Parnaso, and while she conquered it, and after she conquered it, to the point that between my cousins and me, I ended up being the most passionate about this literature world and the poetry and etc. To the point that even she once told me when I was a kid that when it comes to literature, I was like a perfect son. So you can see here when everything is starting to make sense, because as you can see by this poetry, she got the mission. She took the legacy of Miguel de Cervantes, and she, encommended by Apollo, conquer El Parnaso and take it back to the good poetry that needed to be done in order for literature to be renewed for the new generations. Now, while she do that, she made sure that I had access to everything of the best, and I mean the best between the best of what literature can offer. And she always made sure that I understood it, and that she was available to answer questions whenever I have any kind of doubts with this kind of consumption. Like it was very common for me back in school to read like the classics of literature, like the Odyssey, blah blah blah. Like you get the idea. And because of this, you can say that she conquered El Parnaso. She understood the basics and the eternal axioms of El Parnaso slash the literature. And ever since day one of my life, I got access to that knowledge. She had also the intention from day one to nurture me all she could with that knowledge, so I can take the advantage of having it since the beginning, instead of her, that she actually had to study a lot, to work a lot to get this knowledge. And because of this, I like to say that I am El Parnaso made flesh, because I was born into El Parnaso and I was raised to understand ever since the beginning of my life the eternal axioms, the eternal principles of literature, so I can appreciate it the better and as much as I can. Now, I know that this is only when it comes to books, so the just for the curiosity of my life, I was also blessed with, ever since the beginning of my life, to get access to different kind of literature that my aunt couldn't get to me, and also was the best of the best. I had family members that taught me the best of the best. And when I mean the best of the best, I really mean just the best of the best. I wasn't even allowed to consume anything that wasn't on that top tier level when it comes to comic books and when it comes to video games, ever since the beginning of my life. So I these all of these things combine themselves to give me the privilege of having this appreciation of the history of the literature, of the classic literature, and but still having a lot of appreciation on how it is related to current expressions of literature that we have now thanks to technology, like I say, first the comic books and now more often the video games. Now, thanks to this, is why I like to call myself El Parnaso, because I was born with the birthright to be El Parnaso, thanks to the members of my family giving me that privilege because of all the effort and knowledge that they got even before I was born. Now, if that wasn't even enough, I also have the privilege of being born with a very high IQ because when I was a kid, my father took me to an actual psychology to make an actual IQ test, like the real ones, and I got diagnosed with 132 of IQ. And if you research that, less than 1% of all mankind even reaches to 130, and I got a 132. So because of all of these combines, I like to call myself El Parnaso, because again, being El Parnaso is my birthright. So just so you can understand better why El Parnaso in Spanish, when everything that I'm making here related to this channel is in English, because you always need to be grateful for the way that was paid for you. And when you see everything here, you can see and understand that it was the Spanish language and everything that comes with it, like my family, etc., that got me into this spot of being El Parnaso. And I think that if I am going to make everything in English, an homage to all the people that paved the way before me, is expressing and identifying myself every single time in Spanish, not as Parnassus or the Parnassus, but El Parnaso. So this was, I don't know if this is the story that you were expecting, but that's the actual story. Everything that I apply in Yu-Gi-Oh is what I got nurtured in my times dedicated to literature, not only this classic literature, but the new literature, like classic literature, books, etc., and new literature, comics, video games, etc. But in all of those cases, always got nurtured by the best of the best and nothing but the best between the best. So if you enjoy it, leave a like, leave a subscribe, and share the channel with your people. Bye bye.